Welcome to Mojaloop PI20. I think I'm getting some echo in the room. Someone mute their device. Maybe it's this one, sorry. This is not that. You guys need this? Sorry about that. But day one is always the first day we work out all the kinks. So thank you guys. Welcome to Zanzibar. This is PI20. I lost track about how many convenings we've had in the session, but it's great to see you all. Hopefully you guys had a great day walking. Could you turn the volume down? The volume. Yeah. Okay. I think we solved it. No, not that. Okay. Okay, thank you. Could you shut that down? Just shut it down for now. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that. The first session today, we're going to take us back to the basics here. So we have Matt and Miller from the Gates Foundation to talk about some of the principles, how we got here. And without further ado, let's make this really interactive session. So welcome, guys.
Lost the screen behind us. Yeah, that was driven by that laptop. Good morning and welcome to Zanzibar. Thanks all so much for being here. So I'm Matt Bowen from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We've been doing these for quite a while, as it said, as Kim was saying, PI20. There are a few of us who have been to all of them, and I'm among them. And my colleague Miller is, of course, the father of Mojaloop and has been driving this for several years now. But before Miller even joined us, a colleague named David Lubinsky really started us off on this journey that we called the Level 1 project, which is all about making infrastructure for payments available and very inexpensive. But excited to be here yet again and in person. A few folks in the room, and I suspect we'll pick up more, but it'd be useful just to go quickly through and sort of have folks say who they are, just to kind of get everybody up and awake this morning. So I'll go easy and start at the Gates table, but then work our way back. And maybe we need some microphones as well for handheld, just to get a sense for folks around the world who are joining, who we've got. Sorry, folks, it looks like folks have stepped out. Hey, Kim, do we have handheld mics?
Yes.
Perfect. They're coming. Not for me, just for folks around that we're just doing intros. I should have prepped folks. We'll come back to that. Assuming this is going to work. Hey, Kim, the arrow buttons are not working. Okay, so I slide? Yes. Okay. Okay, so the work really started back in 2013 or so, when we set our goals to say by 2030, we would ensure that 80% of adults worldwide and 60% of those who live on less than $2.50 a day use a digital account for services beyond just P2P. up from 50% and 22% respectively back in 2014 when we got this started. And we also really aim to eliminate the gender gap by 2030. So those were our audacious goals that started us down this path. And just a little bit about the Gates Foundation and our work in financial services for the poor. Guiding principle for the Gates Foundation is that all lives have equal value. And that really centers us on all of our work. And this financial services for the poor work is one of just about 30 programs that focus on health, education, elimination of poverty, agriculture, et cetera. So we believe this significant driver of inequality and poverty is financial exclusion. And there are about 1.7 billion people still who do not have access to basic financial services. And it's expensive to be poor. I think folks see it frequently, but while folks have very active financial lives, they face risks, limitations, hidden and not so hidden costs for transacting in small amounts. So the FSP team supports private sector and government partners in shared efforts to give the world's poorest people access to those financial services and tools that will make their lives better, more prosperous, more secure. And we're focused, obviously to this group on digital technology to drive those changes at scale. And another sort of important stat that we focus on is from a McKinsey study that showed that if we can reach the additional 1.6 billion people or so that we think are targetable, that could add $3.7 trillion USD to the annual GDP in emerging market countries by 2025, which is close, but we're still a little ways away from reaching those 1.6 billion. So the DFS model that we've been working on is sort of simultaneously a very powerful anti-poverty strategy and one for catalyzing economic development. So we found microphones yet? Yeah? No? Yeah?
I think we're going to use these.
Okay. Okay. Let's just do a quick around the room to get a sense of who's here. Let's start there.
No?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, good morning. My name is Phil Ressler. I'm an academic professor at William & Mary in the US. Happy to be here.
Good morning. Nyi CEO of TeslaWorks. We are implementing Mojalu based instant payment switch in Myanmar called WinePay, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. I'm Benjamin Dotto from here, Tanzania, e-Government Authority.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tatu Mikidadi from Dodoma, Ministry of Finance and ICT Officer.
Good morning. My name is Nestori Maro from Bank of Tanzania. I work on payment systems.
Good morning. My name is Elijah Okello. I'm a software engineering student at Makerere University in Uganda.
Hello, good morning. My name is Implement Nicholas from High People, Uganda.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Innocent Kaoya from the Pearl of Africa, Uganda.
Hello, I'm Mudathir from State University of Zanzibar, Suza on computer sciences.
Good morning. My name is Bobson Rugambwa. I'm from Rwanda.
Good morning. My name is Alan Kajangwe. I'm CEO of Widen. I'm from Rwanda.
Good morning. Iago Silva from Papersoft from Portugal.
Morning, everyone. My name is Juliet Kairuki. I'm from here, Tanzania. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Malcolm Castero from Uganda.
Good morning. My name is Dean, the advisor to the Guinean Prime Minister from Guinea.
Good morning. I'm Gumu Ferdinand from Teklulang from Guinea.
Good morning. I should say Habari. I'm Sajib Azad from UNCDF Myanmar, and we're implementing a modular-based interoperable payment platform.
Hi everyone, this is Zazalin from UNCDF Myanmar. I come from Myanmar and I work for the Myanmar Microfinance Digitalization Project as a project officer. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Greg McCormick. Yes, I'm still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. The bags are in Dubai, so hopefully that'll change. I was with these guys at Cybrin. Now I'm working with these guys to create something new for the fraud program. And looking forward to seeing everybody. It's been great actually to see everybody face to face.
Morning, everyone. I'm Salvatore Herrera. I'm from Sabrin. I'm a product manager at Sabrin, and I work on basically KYC, AML, and fraud software.
Morning, Johan Foley from Cybrin, also working on the FRMS solution with Greg.
Well, and I'm the DA. So,
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm TD from COIL. We work with the COIL team on one of the contributions. We'll speak a little bit later on, but we're also a sponsor member of the foundation, and it's really wonderful to be here.
Good morning. I'm with TD, also from COIL. Yeah, we'll be showing you some Tiger Beetle integration into settlement later in the week.
Good morning. I'm Olivia Belletti from the Gates Foundation, also based in Seattle, United States.
And good morning, everyone. Miller Abel. I guess I'm the perpetrator of some of this stuff. But I know most of you, and it's wonderful to see everybody here again in person. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gillian LaFond with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Seattle, Washington. Glad to be here. Thank you.
You want to touch on the folks online?
Sure. I don't know how we do that.
All right.
Yeah.
I won't put
Okay.
them on the spot, but welcome to those online as well. And welcome to everyone who's here. We're so happy that that we're back together again in person, and it's very good to hear who's in the room and from how many places. It's fantastic. So a little bit more about how the Gates Foundation thinks about this investment program. So we've come to think of it in this model that we've called rules, rails, accounts, and apps. So rules are sort of the underlying way that that these financial and payment schemes work. And we think that those should be, sort of well regulated, sort of government involvement as necessary. Certainly there are commercial options in there as well, but we think this is a good space for collaboration. So everybody sharing the same rules really makes things work well and broadly for everyone. Similar with Rails. So the underlying switching componentry, the settlement interfaces, the like, these things again are a good place for collaboration, right? So common APIs, common ways in which systems interact with each other allows for those things to work together, allows for payments to have further reach and thus further impact, as well as collaboration in these spaces lowers costs because there's not duplication of services amongst many, right? And then we get into the area that we think is properly competitive space, and these are areas that we tend to not get too involved directly and certainly financially around accounts, right? So DFSPs, be they banks or mobile money providers or microfinance institutions, et cetera, all have great and proper relationships with their customers. They go find and get those customers and get them with open accounts and ability to transact. And then apps expands even beyond that, right? So the ability for multiple applications that innovate on top of the existing use cases appeal to more and more customers and pull people into the ecosystem. Again, an area that we're excited about, but tend to not get too involved with because we think the commercial market is quite good at that. All right. So on to our level 1 principles. So there's really 2 kind of pillars to this. The first is low price to users, and the second is positively impacting the lives of poor people. Right. So to get to a low price to users, we need low cost. Right. So cost and price aren't necessarily related when you think about the service delivery model, but cost can often be kind of a floor. Right. So the price typically won't go below the cost. And so it's important to be able to deliver services in a low cost way. So making Mojaloop available is one way we've really tried to bring low cost into the infrastructure space for payments. They need to be safe, right? So if your fraud costs of a system are very high, that obviously leads to high costs for your services and high prices. And then it has to be used, right? So the cost of your infrastructure, the cost of your services, if they're not spread over a wide number of transactions, users, et cetera, then it becomes very expensive per capita, per transaction. And so they need to be attractive and used. And then they need to positively impact the lives of poor people, right? So they need to be useful. So we think, the most used transaction type is paying a merchant for something, right? And so that drives a lot of that volume and a lot of engagement. And the more engagement there is, the more data there is to help figure out things like, credit worthiness, what can be insured, and really enable a great number of other financial services. It needs to be inclusive, right? So it needs to embrace different ways to be used, different languages, different media, the ability to include people throughout the ecosystem is critical, and then ubiquitous, right? So it's got to be everywhere. We say, Mojaloop means one loop, right? And what we've always meant by the level 1 principles are one payment system for everyone, and you should be able to pay anyone from any of the nodes of the system. So diving in kind of deeply on, right? So, and please ask questions along the way. Hands can come up. We've done this presentation a lot of times, but it has been a little bit of time since then. So, things can move on, and we'd love to get sort of questions or challenges or any of the like as we go. So low cost, right? So use of the platform, ultra low cost for participating DFSPs. Not for lost utility, right? So the payment scheme in the center is not intended to be a place that builds up a lot of profit and retained earnings, right? It's intended to make the cost of interoperating for the DFSPs much lower. So they're not a profit maximizing entity. Interoperable, right? This almost goes without saying, but I've said it out loud many times. If you don't have a monopoly on payments in your market today, you're probably not ever going to have one. So being able to reach as many people as you need to make a payment system relevant really requires interoperability in order to make it useful for everyone. Equal ownership opportunities. We've said it's important that the participants, meaning the DFSPs, be they banks, be they telcos, be they MFIs, et cetera, have the opportunity to have ownership in the scheme. There's a sort of alternate model to that, which is it's publicly owned, right? So, but in any event, the governance of the scheme should be and the ownership of the scheme should be by the participants. Third-party providers, right? So non-licensed aggregators, processors, Forex providers, and the like should be able to participate in a variety of ways in order to really help to drive adoption of these services, right? The innovation, the reach, the commercialization of these systems really requires, in most cases, those sort of third-party organizations. And then participant engagement, right? So indirect and direct participants without ownership should still have the ability to participate in the governance of the scheme, right? So this is all about sort of design and governance, and then a bit more real-time payments, right? And push payments. So those are much more like cash. They are much more like the transactions that folks are used to doing. They're immediate. There's not multiple days of waiting for my money to be available once I've been paid. There's not sort of the cost of float. There's a variety of reasons why these are less expensive transactions than traditional card payments or ACH payments. As a result of sort of that real-time nature, these payments are irrevocable, right? So when I send money, I need to send it to the right place. I need to be sure that I'm doing so. And once I do, the recipient of that money has that money. It's theirs, and they can do with it as they wish to do with it. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not accountability within the system. It doesn't mean that if you receive a payment that you shouldn't have received, that you shouldn't return it, or that law enforcement shouldn't have some way to get involved if folks are sort of fraudulently talking you into sending payments to them. So this doesn't mean any of that, but a given payment when made is complete. So these are all in good funds, right? And this one might be one of the more controversial ones. These aren't credit. These are real money moving, in real time. So settlement should be same day or faster. So many systems these days are settling multiple times a day, and some even in under 10-second increments, right? So the speed of settlement is speeding up, and we think that's a good thing for cost, for risk, and for usability. So use cases and really looking for scale here, right? So the system should be usable. We talked about merchant a little bit, but I think P2P is sort of the base case we've always thought about, sending person to person, but being able to do that domestically, cross-border, consumer to business, consumer to government, government to people, cash in, cash out, et cetera. Those cases all need to be available in order to make the system both usable and relevant. And then fraud management, right? So these systems need to be safe. This is one actually that we've had in the principles from the beginning, but really we're thinking the commercial market might step in, do more. We've been, involving ourselves more directly in the last couple of years to help bridge that gap and make sure that there are low cost open source solutions. And Greg and the Cybrin team will tell more about that later in the week. But this is an area that has lagged a bit, but we're working to catch up quickly on that space. So, regulation. We think that these should be regulated systems, working in fiat currency, not in Bitcoin or other cryptos or the like, which is inclusive. The fiat currencies can and should include central bank digital currencies and the like, but as far as the unregulated things, we're have never sort of included them in level one. We think there's a variety of reasons that they're less suitable for development for broad usage and retail level financial services. Supervision, right? So the regulators should have a good view into how these systems work and make sure that they are working well and serving people. And the government, in fact, we would like them to use the system. So these digital systems are very useful in getting payments out to poor people. It's been illustrative, at least during the pandemic, to see governments getting payments out to people, and the governments that have used digital means to do so have been, much more efficient and effective in getting that money out to consumers. Licensing, right? So e-money issuers, special charter banks, microfinance institutions, all should be welcome participants in addition to banks who have, sort of long been licensed to do this stuff. And then tiered KYC. So this is an area that we've talked about. It goes along with tiered account limits, right? So I can open an account with very minimal or even no KYC in some markets, and have very limited abilities with that account to begin with, while my KYC is at the lowest tier. And then as I transact more, as I interact more with the system, as the system gets more insight into who I am and my usage patterns, my account limits can raise with those needs. All right, end user fees, right? So as we said at the beginning, price to consumer is one of the key pillars here. And fees to end users should be very low, as low as zero, if they can be, and may vary by use case. But, we think it's best when DFSPs are realizing revenue from adjacent revenue streams and value-added services. Pricing transparency, right? So this is becoming more and more common, but especially in the beginning of this journey, we'd see folks asked to make a transaction with however much they were sending. And then after they completed the transaction, they would get a notification, oh, you were charged, $2 fee for making that transaction. and it came after that final click, right? So very important that folks are able to see the price of the transaction, the full price, including Forex and the like, before committing to a transaction. User interface design. So this is somewhat intuitive, but the ease of use is very important for adoption and for inclusivity. I think we saw yesterday a variety of transaction models on smartphones and feature phones. And then they, sort of pulled out a card and just, quickly swiped it. So making those sort of equivalently easy and focusing on the design of digital financial services versus sort of the card experience is important. So being accessible from low-cost devices. So we mean their feature phones. So the $5 phones versus the $1,000 phones that so many of us are walking around with these days. Access points. So being able to access through merchants, billers, agents, bank branches, ATMs. There needs to be a lot of places where you can use the service. And then notifications. So critical for privacy, security. This is a bit of one of the gender items that we think is really important. People need to have control over the notifications that come when they make or receive payments. So when a payment is received, does it chime on my phone? Does it do it at any time of day? Does it, what information comes with that? Those notifications need to be controllable, and I need to really only receive one from my DFSP, not from the sending DFSP, the switch in the middle, the receiving DFSP, et cetera, right? So control of those notifications is important. So looking around, I'm again happy to take questions along the way, but okay, technology. So Mojaloop key exemplar of this, but appropriate technologies that support secure, high volume, low cost, irrevocable, real-time payments securely and while protecting privacy. Yes, question in the back or comment. Just waiting for the tech in the room to work here.
Good morning once again. So you talked about us building technologies that are more accessible to low-cost devices. I know that there is USSD, but I've done some research, but it's so damn expensive to run, like at an operator's perspective, right? So I want to know how would you advise to go about this problem of running such an infrastructure for people because we want them to get the service on the feature phones, but the cost of running this entire operation is really expensive. For example, I'm from Uganda, and there are mobile money operators, the likes of MTN and Airtel. So they have like USSD infrastructure, but they charge a ton for, yeah. So I don't know if it's possible to like have a framework to enable fintechs, have, access to these people's devices at an affordable rate. Yeah.
I've seen over the years a variety of sort of market battles around USSD sessions and the price of them, right? Especially when it's not the telco themselves providing the service that's accessed through USSD. So it is a difficult problem to solve, because the telcos will tell you, we need 15 cents per session. The banks will tell you, we can't afford more than 6 cents per session to make it affordable to our users, and then the regulator has to listen and sometimes step in. USSD is part of the GSM standard. It's built into nearly every phone and every telco OSS that's out there, right? So the delivery of them is somewhat expensive. It was always actually intended in the standard to be, sort of back channel for network tuning and the like. It was not initially intended for commercialization. And so, it's not terribly surprising that it's not the lowest cost bearer technology. But it is one that reaches everyone, and is one where you don't have to go touch every phone or do over-the-air updates to a phone to get clients onto the phones, right? So we have seen some markets move towards SDK models with SIM development kits and building things in. So Kenya, notably, with where Safaricom has such a strong market share that they're able to basically touch every phone and before it's purchased, and get a client on that. So there are other ways, but and of course, the smartphone revolution continues to march along. And so we've seen, low cost smartphones and the like come to markets and start to supplant feature phones, although, battery life and ruggedness of those devices continues to be a bit of a challenge. So, yeah. So it's not a definitive answer to your question, but it is a known area of challenge. Thanks. Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Matt, going one slide, back on the user experience. These are really good points. But what we learn from our implementation is that there are a lot of dependencies on the user interface and user experience of the wallets that we're working with, and there's a limited influence that we have on what can be changed, right, and not changed. And actually, the users are experiencing Moja Loop, through that, and not switch itself. So I wonder, from other experiences, what are the lessons learned? What are the things that we can do to make sure that there is a consistency on the user experience across all the wallets? Thank you.
So part of that is, what we started with, the rules, rails, accounts, and apps. So in the apps space is where a lot of this lives. And so making the system open for third parties to connect to it in a standard way, who can then go and design user experiences that meet the needs of their customers in a variety of niches, is probably the sort of the best smartphone facing direction that I've seen being positive. Obviously the PSP KISP design in India is allowing for that and helping to make great user experience for those customers. We've also really explored with our GSMA lab partners the notion of biometric voice, and so voice interaction can allow for kind of hyper localization of languages. And relatively simple, still menu-driven interactions that can be, relatively inexpensive and engaging, although, slower for the user, right? I'm not, punching in a quick USSD code or any of the like, but, if I can listen to a menu in my own language and interact with it, and be authenticated using my voice biometric, that can be relatively powerful. So there's a variety of ways to engage users in ways that work for them.
And if I could make a comment as well, I know one of the operators here in this market exposed to us that while the tip system allows for you to send a payment to anybody whose ID you know, whether it's a tips ID or a phone number, without knowing who that person banks with, the original design of the system for interoperable payments was to select the other carrier from a menu and then to enter in the amount that you wanted to send to them following that and the rest of it. So you had to know who the other person banked with before you could set up the payment. Well, now the challenge, of course, is you don't need to do that anymore with tips. So why don't we just fix the USSD menus? And I looked at this look of horror came over his face when he thought about changing the USSD menus, because people have programmed scripts into their phones. They just know how to do it. They just slam it through. And if you change the USSD menu, he was literally concerned for revenue and loss of customers. And so I think we have to bring us a set of patience and understanding to the pace at which the change to the USSD side can occur. While what Matt said is true, that in the smartphone side, competition can form quickly for wallets to allow for innovative user interface. But the large bulk of users in this market, 90+% or something like that, use USSD, even from a smartphone, because every smartphone has that capability. And so it's just used that way. So this is a barrier. And I think we have to bring, as scheme developers, we have to bring some patience to that, even though we would like it to just move along. Thank you.
Thank you for the perfect segue. That's actually kind of what I was going to mention was I feel you need to look at a different paradigm, if you will, and start looking at other methods to communicate. So when I was still at Cybrin, we did the WhatsApp project for a Pan-African bank. So instead of using USSD, which is expensive, and we've looked at over and over again how to do it here with various partners, we can't bring the cost down. But the WhatsApp interface that we built when I was there, or fully built, and his team built, works really well. And they were exploring Telegram. So the problem with WhatsApp is they're trying to get fees as well. So they're starting to set up marketplaces and things like that and concepts for that. Telegram doesn't have that yet. So we explored that while I was there. And I'd personally like to see avenues like that approached. There are other ways to transmit. So.
Got one more question. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Picking up on the question about the USSD, my question is: do you see this as a risk? Because if we want an open system, having USSD that's heavily controlled by the telco, so they can decide to close the channels or charge different prices, which is a high risk. We saw that I think earlier this year in Nigeria, that then the regulator had to intervene to find a solution. My question is: do you find this a risk because it's heavily controlled by telcos at this point? Thank you.
But I think regulators have stepped in and shown a willingness to step in if telcos are, sort of trying to manipulate the prices or sort of overly tax their competitors in the space or the like. So I think in the US for a while we had a concept called net neutrality, right? It's and I think regulators mostly have embraced at least some of the principles of that. So certainly anytime you've got powerful interests that can control communications channels, there are risks involved, right? But I think they're reasonably well understood and managed in most markets, right?
Yeah. Oh,
there it is.
That's very loud. So one of the things that we see that drives adoption is actually, it doesn't tend to be a technological solution. It needs to be a behavioral change, sort of behavioral nudges, default theory, that kind of stuff. Could you share some examples of how to change the client behavior over and above trusting the system?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think as we were saying, it sometimes goes slowly, right? Consumer education is difficult. One of the things that I learned early on in the journey is the importance of brand, right? And so having, a worldwide badge, for like Visa and MasterCard, right? You see the sticker on a merchant's shop window and oh, I can go in and I can pay there with a card, right? So having that brand, and this is another one that's kind of shared space, right? It's in the rules space, the branding, right? Getting that common brand and a common user interface or common user experience and builds that trust, means I don't have to learn 16 different ways to pay in different places. So, getting that right, I feel like is probably the most important start in that space. But, then followed up with, any number of consumer education programs, be they, sort of mass media, mobile media, et cetera, can be quite helpful, as well as, sort of village outreach and the like.
Thanks, Matt. Innocent is my name again. I think our USSD conversation will be one of the biggest this week. We've been having several conversations in Uganda and in Kenya for the last months, about 5 months, with regulators and players, especially aggregators, around SDK, KaiOS, USSD generally, and the fact that we sometimes refer to mobile money payments as SMS payments. And for the thoughts of everyone here, that we're not going to have to achieve maximizing the dividends of USSD without engaging regulators and telecoms to actually cut down costs. Of course, the thought has been SMS has over the last 10 years gone so low in cost that in Uganda, for instance, I can send an SMS at 5 shillings, which was about 400 shillings 10 years ago. I don't know what percentage that is, but it's gone down so low, so it's affordable. But it's challenging still, because then we have to do a lot of education, because so many people use mobile money, but they can't type necessarily. They know how the figures look like. They can type 10,000 shillings, 100,000, but you can't tell them type send, receive, or something like that. The thought from my point of view is that part of the things we've been talking about the government, recently we had a conversation with the Minister of ICT, and we say maybe, especially for the fintech innovators, we should put together funds and have maybe a USSD infrastructure that is accessible by all of them, maybe affordably or even free, maybe for about 4 or 5 years, as they look for funds to contribute to paying for it and host it for themselves for the long run. Because like we all know, most of the telecom businesses are not actually technology companies. So they are in the communications work for money, for business. So it might be very hard to convince them to support fintechs to cut down costs for SMS and other kind of stuff. Yeah, but still, like you said, and like Mila said, 90%, I have a smartphone, I've had it for many years, but I also do my transactions mostly using USSD. I mean, I have apps of providers, I mean, a number of them. But in the end, it becomes easier to say, okay, because it's the traditional of us thinking. So much as we may innovate smartly and have the apps, truth is that the channels like USSD and SMS are going to still be very useful for making sure we achieve financial inclusion.
Yeah, I would agree. And the other comment is, I would expect over time, you would expect USSD usership to go down as smartphones come in, as folks start to adopt kind of those smartphone based usages. And so it will become even more challenging when fewer people are using USSD. It's kind of like checks in the US. They, almost nobody uses them anymore. And so they become, on a per check basis, very expensive to support for banks and financial institutions. And USSD might trend in that direction over time. So it'll be important for regulators to sort of keep an eye on that. Okay. All right. Identifiers. So getting back into this. So we think very important to have multiple identifiers. This is another area for privacy, right? So being able to transact using some identifier apart from my phone number can be very important for privacy safety, particularly as sort of a gender inclusive design feature. System components should be, centralized and provide, sort of the enactment of scheme rules, switching, directory services, settlement, fraud management, those sorts of services, kind of reused across the core. This is our shared Rails space. So that common core, saying that all of the use cases in the market should use those same underlying principles and design and payment orders, settlement protocols, and the like, rather than sort of designing separate use cases using separate infrastructure. Allowing for additional protocols to be involved. We've seen a lot of innovation in the QR code space over the last few years. Request to pay, PISP, et cetera. As more innovations come into the market, there should be room for those and sort of a standard way for folks to get in and involved in those. And then system connections, right? The system designed to connect to other appropriate domestic systems as well as cross-border, so that again, it has reach and can be as useful as possible. So, and then enabling attributes, we've been talking about USSD, right? So network services that are reliable, available, dependable, enabling programs around, consumer education, efforts to reach out to women to get equal usage amongst those populations is a key principle as well. We talked about user education, data privacy, keeping folks' information private, not shared without their knowledge or consent. And then gender disaggregated data. So having the ability to know amongst your customers who are men, who are women, what are they doing, and how do we, target those products, services, and outreach to pull women into the fold. We've seen so much research that shows that money in the hands of women is more likely to be spent on the welfare of the family than similar amounts of money in the hands of men. So we think it's very important that women have control and autonomy over their accounts, and being able to show that that's true and designed to help make that true is what gender disaggregated data is about. So those are the principles. There are several things that give more info on this, as well as assets that we've helped to make available, including Mojaloop, the Mojaloop API family. Coming soon, the fraud management open source. We've got, of course, this community of practice that is more than 2,000 people strong now, which is an incredible accomplishment over the time. We have a website, level1project.org, that really goes into depth, even more than I have here today, on these principles and how they have worked and been applied in places. We've got a mobile money lab at the GSMA that is helping to drive innovation, and would be happy to make connections there. The PAFI work from the World Bank, as well as a significant amount of work from the BIS that are available online to see as well. So there are a lot of market assets, resources for folks to go to sort of learn more about all of this and go forward. And with that, take any more questions if anybody has them, but otherwise I'll move us on to the next thing. I'm just slightly over time, I think, right?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's no other questions, we're going to take a coffee break and then come back here at exactly 10 o'clock for the welcome and kickoff. So feel free to socialize, to mingle among yourselves, grab some coffee, grab breakfast if you didn't, and then be here back for 10 o'clock. Make sure you pick up some of our swag at the desk. We have some really nice pens, stickers, some chargers, as well as our Mojaloop placemats. That's been a tradition since the beginning of time. They're rather large, but it's a great diagram. The last plug is I'll have is one thing we have new this event is a tech booth. If you have not installed Mojaloop, you do not need to be technical. We have people like myself and Tom Daly out there to help you get set up on your laptop. If you'd like to solve Mojaloop, please stop by, see me or someone in the booth right there. So again, welcome and come back around 10 o'clock. Thank you.